Good afternoon and welcome to the Hood River White Salmon Bridge Authority meeting for August 10th. Go start ahead and get into it. We'll do it. I see Grant, Arthur, Mike Fox here in the room with Catherine Thomas online.
Jake Edwards also.
And Jake Edwards. Thank you. And then for Washington, myself, Eric Wilson, Jacob Anderson online, and Mark Flaming, first alternate, will be the voting members today. And then we also have Keith Harshman online and Ben Berger here in the room. So we do have a quorum. Are there any modifications or additions to the agenda? No. The agenda as presented. Approval or comments on the minutes from last meeting. Any comments?
I move to approve the minutes from July 27th.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Public comments. We don't have any public comment here to comment in the room. Is there anyone online that wishes to comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports. Grant, do you have anything to provide?
No, just we received a note about she's the update on our BIP note. You wanted to make a comment about that, so I'll leave it to you.
I think we've got that a little bit later in our meeting. I just would love to thank the HMTB team. I had the opportunity to sit with the cost schedule exercise last week for 2.5 days, and I just want to hand it to staff that worked through that. I just thought it was really well done, and really a lot of confidence in where we are with the diligence that went into that. So Michael, Shannon, thank you.
Thank you.
Team. Yep. And now we'll let him talk.
All right. So CDS money, we've got the stuff updated. We're still waiting on ODOT legal. They're backed up to get through the service agreement and CDS agreement. So I didn't see Rob on yet, but if he jumps on, we may be able to get an update from Rob. But I know they're working on it. We check in with him on a fairly regular basis, and he's checking in with his legal. So hopefully it'll come up soon. We're still working through the test file program. We've had a number of meetings. We're meeting basically weekly on that. This Friday, we will be getting a proposal from Kiewit on the cost of the test file program, as well as developing the baseline existing bridge data and the thresholds that we will use for the test file program. We'll be comparing that to our internal estimates to see how that values out, and then making a determination on how to move forward. So that'll be coming up here soon. It looks like the actual work will not happen until late this year, January of next year. Just most of that is material purchases and getting material in order to be able to do the work. So that is continuing to progress. We had the meeting with OPRD MPS. They are still considering our offer. We have not heard anything back with them yet. So I'll check in with Stuart and have him double check this week and see if he has heard anything from them, or if he jumps on today, we can ask him. But last I heard is they're still evaluating their options on that for the 6F.
Do we know if the National Park Service people and the Oregon Parks people have actually met since they spoke with us?
It's my understanding they have. We have not heard what any outcome of that is. So we'll double check on that. But
actual follow through.
Yeah.
I thought in the past, though, that in our dealings with them directly, they just declined our proposal.
They did. We
is this a
represented.
different
Yeah.
stance on their part?
Well, that's what we've heard is they're reconsidering it. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if it'll be a change.
Right.
We're waiting to see what the outcome of that reconsideration is.
But looking at the positive, they've at least said we'll reconsider.
Yes.
Heard indirectly that we made a passionate presentation to them, didn't get a lot in way of response, made some connections afterwards, and were told indirectly that there was a commitment to reconsider. Or commitment, the specifics were to look for solutions.
Yes.
That was the phrase.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's something.
So, as Eric said a little bit earlier, Grant said a little bit earlier, the bridge investment program, I sent an email out to commissioners. We did hear back that we are recommended, which means basically we're moving to the next step. So we've asked for a debrief, which will allow us an opportunity to hear if there are any shortcomings or anything in our application that we can fill any gaps or make any edits. If there are, then we'll make some edits. We'll return that back in and then we'll wait to hear a final decision. So no idea when that final decision will be, hopefully before the end of the year. So I'm now officially moving my end of September to end of December. So we will continue to monitor that and continue to move forward, waiting to see what that means. There has been a number of projects that have won with the recommended rating, so I think nothing alarming there. It's just the big news is we are continuing forward. So.
And they said they were accepting modified applications until September 25th.
Yes, we will have 2 weeks.
That was the only date we have.
Yeah. Yep. They'll set up a debrief and then we have to return our edits within 2 weeks of that, 14 days of that debrief, with a final submittal for everyone nationally by the 25th.
And so the most significant thing that's happened since we submitted the original application would be reaching 60% design documentation.
Also record of decision.
I thought that was right.
So it was right after, I believe. We sent it in October and then that happened in November. So we're going to repackage anything that we have sent to them post our last application, and repackage all of that and make sure all of it officially gets into their package.
Right.
I'll call it, and make sure that their package is complete with all of our updated information. We've been piecemealing it and sending it, but we don't know whether it made it to the packet or where it ended. So we want to make sure we do that.
It's probably worth noting that by the time they make a decision, we'll be at 100% design documents, right?
Potentially it could be. We don't know
We can say that.
Yes.
We can say we expect to be because
Expect to be yes. Yeah.
right.
We could. And we can.
That shows significant continued progress. And I'm betting that at least a couple of the competitive projects haven't had that sort of progress since they put in applications in.
Well, and we also got our Coast Guard clearance, right?
We just got our Coast Guard clearance on Friday, so we can include that. So that's now something else that can go in there. We did our cost schedule risk analysis last week. Didn't have any significant findings there or change to the project there. So that's an important step.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that we want to put together and put into the update. So
Yeah, and key is during the 60%, we didn't find anything negative coming out of
Right.
design. If anything, it's all positive.
Yeah.
Catherine, your hand's up.
Thank you, Chair. I guess question for you, Mr. Shannon. Is there a committee that's reviewing all the documents that are being sent as an update? And second question, is it potentially beneficial to people that met with DOT members just to reach out also as a touch?
We can do that however you like. I was planning to work it through the Funding and Finance Committee, but if you would like us to work it through a different subcommittee or how we want to do that, I would say make sure we check with our legal, who I think is on, to make sure we do that in a way that's not doesn't cause any issues. But we're happy to send it to whoever we're allowed to send it to.
So
Well, I just want to make sure,
question.
I also think the geotech information is interesting because that tells them that
Yep.
we're kind of confident. So I think we're all adding in things that we're thinking of at this table. So I'm just wondering if there's a compiled list of documents that are being sent to the reviewer or like what that list is. Because I would hate for staff to be, forget something that we thought is important and it's just because none of us reviewed it. So I'm just wondering, and if you're going through fund and finance, that's fine. I just was wondering that. And then also, I guess to Dan and is this the time that we have our congressional delegation call and ask or to say that we know that we're rated or moved on and please call now or is that not appropriate?
Yes, we'll be getting an update from Jim Colvin a little bit here, but we're discussing all this and considering the best way to continue that advocacy.
Also, Mike, do I understand there will be 3 commissioners participating in the debrief? Is that how that will work?
That is correct.
So
And
we would it be wise for us to decide who those 3 people are?
Yes, I would like for you all to decide who sits in the debrief. And determine who that would be.
And
Is this on the agenda later? Or should we do this now?
Whenever you would like to do.
well, I think that kind of goes to the other half of Catherine's comment is some of us have been back and made a connection with some people at DOT. Does it make sense to cross-pollinate that so there's continuity?
Let's talk about that after we hear from Jim.
Okay, thank you.
So, the only other thing I would
Two issues here. Who should be involved in reviewing what we're gonna do with the bit resubmittal, if you will?
Correct.
And the second one is, who should go back to DC if we're going back to DC to present?
Or what sort of
I think
guidance.
it's a virtual.
Whatever it is, I think we will know a little bit more after we hear Jim's report, so there's no reason to discuss either subject.
And the debrief will be virtual. The debrief will not be in person. They don't do those in
Why
person.
don't you finish your report and we'll try to stay on the
Okay.
agenda and solve the problems later.
So we are advancing civil and superstructure. We went through 60%, got comments. We're doing some final comment resolution, but design is officially moving forward on the 100% that'll be towards the end of this year. Just as a reminder, and I'm going to keep saying this for the next couple months, that is the last review. That is intended to be a complete review of everything. And then between there and March and the release for construction or TS&E package or whatever you want to call it, that includes all the final plans, final specs, final estimates, signed and sealed. That package will just be a resolution of the comments we receive at 100%. So,
And just to verify, the bridge as it stands has no tower for an osprey on it.
it does not, but we might put a catch basin for little ones that decide to jump. So, yes.
There's gonna be a bunch of sensors though, right?
We did get clearance on the Bent 11. So that was the last geotech boring. That's the one between the water and the railroad. So that's going to be moving forward. It's at the next week, I believe the 18th. So that'll be coming up soon. And then the right-of-way parcel, they're finalizing that appraisal. Because there is a wetlands on that property, we have to find compensable wetlands to appraise. So they are working on that right now to identify some potential mitigation parcels. So that has to be included.
This was the last geotech work, right? Now geotech is 100% complete.
Correct, other than some reports, but the actual field work is done unless we identify something new that we.
A lot of people ask me questions. I guess, they noticed it happening again. What's going on?
Yeah.
So it's now 100% complete.
Well,
Yeah.
Bent 11 is the last one.
Yeah, I think that's what you're asking. The Bent 11.
We got one more to go.
Oh, but so are the teams?
Bent 11
I
is
thought that
the
the
one,
teams already been physically on it.
not Bent 11, no.
No, they come off the bridge next week, lower the equipment, bring it over and then do the drilling.
Okay, because they did some of that this week, right?
No,
That was up on 14.
Oh, okay.
yeah, there was, the bridge closure was, it was, I think Friday or something, was to put the little baby osprey back in the nest.
Who knows that?
Yeah,
We didn't have anything to do with that one.
we did not. No, that's all I had, Eric.
Just a clarifying question. So on the wetlands, it's part of the appraisal. Is that mitigation work that we have to do after acquiring that property in order to, we have to basically buy or replace the wetlands somewhere else or protect the
It's
wetland?
part of our overall wetlands mitigation that we have to do. So there's a 3 or 4 wetlands areas that we will impact and we will have to mitigate for. So it's part of that overall wetland mitigation.
And so does that decrease the value of the property because it needs to be mitigated?
That's what they're taking into account right now. Yeah, is how that offsets the price, as well as the easement that the gas company has across the property as well. So that's what they're putting together now to finalize that
Okay.
value of that property.
And these mitigations, they're 1-for-1 mitigations.
Sure. We just went through that today. There's some caveats to that. It's depends on the type of wetland, is what Christy explained this morning, and the offset is dependent on that. So it could be as little as what she showed this morning was 1.5 to 1 up to 3 to 1. So overall, it's roughly 1 to 3 acres for us, depending on how
Small acreage.
ends up working out.
I had the opportunity to ask earlier and I didn't, but the question occurred to me, who makes that determination on the wetland?
The federal agencies, no, the federal agencies will determine that, the oversight agencies. And there's different ones.
Okay. You're getting more interruptions in your report every single week.
That's all right. As long as we have answers. It's okay.
All right. Did I see Mark on there for a legal report?
Yeah, he is.
He was, I think.
I'm on. Unfortunately, I don't have complete reporting from my team yet. I'm trying to get that wrapped up in the next day or so for you. Because the rest of my team is doing way more work than I am. So, but nothing significant to report that you're not aware of.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Government relations. I see Jim on the screen, so maybe we'll start there.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Well, we just officially started August recess here in DC. So the Senate left over the weekend, and the House won't be back until the last week in August. So usually a pretty quiet period, although there's a lot of things happening. We'll come back to BIP, but before they left, they finished the continuing resolution, their version of the continuing resolution. The House has passed one earlier, much earlier than they normally do, but setting up to be a fun September, which will probably roll into a lame duck to keep the government open. It's also tied into the extension of the surface transportation bill, which the Senate included in their version. The reason I raised that is that the Senate version does include additional funding for all the federal aid highway programs, including BIP. Key distinction, it does not include any of the advanced appropriations, which was the majority of the BIP funding, but it will provide in 2026, BIP was provided $700 million out of the Highway Trust Fund. So if the Senate extension were to become law, that amount would, pro rata amount of that $700 million will be carried into the early part of 2027. So long way of saying there may be more money available for BIP by October 1st. So just something we're tracking. Like I said, that's going to roll into September and potentially into the lame duck before that gets resolved. But there's potential for there to be more funding involved. On the BIP front, we've been talking, in advance of getting the notice that, we were selected to go into the next round here, about repackaging all of our BIP support letters that we've gotten, really going back over like a 3-year period. We were working with Senator Merkley's office to have them resubmit all of those in a single package to DOT, so that just to kind of refresh that is there. We had a conversation with Dan and Mike last week about, updating some of those letters and repackaging and resending them with the updated application after we have the debrief. So we'll be continuing to have those conversations. as we, move towards the debrief and then resubmittal, how best, we put that forward. I mentioned last time that Senator Cantwell has a new personal staff, a new person in her personal office, as well as a new staffer on the Senate Commerce Committee. We reached out and had a debrief with them just to get them up to speed with where we are. What support we've had from the senator in the past, and just answer any questions they've had. Good. It was a good session with them. Obviously, the beginning, hopefully, of a longer relationship. I will say, not long after that, we had the bridge closure, and they actually proactively reached out and asked about, what occurred, how long it was shut down. So thankfully, it wasn't a significant event, but shows that they're at least tracking this project, that they reached out. Also had a conversation with Senator Murray's office, and this is something we're going to need to follow up with them on. They were actually reaching out about the infra grant and just, are we going to have any issues with the obligation deadline? So that's something we're going to need to, track. If there's an opportunity through legislation to extend that deadline, if we get up, we get backed up against that timeline, which is the end of next fiscal year, but something we need to start keeping an eye on now. As long as we don't have the grant agreement signed. So, we're going to have some follow-up conversations there. Those are the things that are happening. Happy to have a full conversation around the BIP piece. Like I said, we had an initial session with Mike and Dan last week, about how we want to move forward here, what our opportunities are. So, but happy to discuss all that and talk about what our options are.
Thank you, Jim. Does anybody have any specific?
Jim, could you just remind me, as far as we know today, how much money is left for this phase of the BIP, not including, you said there's a possibility of some additional monies being added in October.
I'll have to get back. I don't have that right in front of me. I know I had that at one point.
3.2 billion.
That's okay. Yeah, did I hear 3.2?
That's what Dan says.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Thanks.
If I may, Jim, on the potential for an additional 700 million for bridge investment, would that technically be a fiscal year 27 round of BIP, or would that be added to 26?
It's hard to tell. I mean, and I want to reiterate something I said. It would only be the pro rata share. So if they do an extension to December 11th, it will only be, whatever that works out to be, less than a third, I guess. So, 200 million. My guess is they may very well roll it into this 2026 round, but obviously it hasn't become law yet. So, they won't know, whether they're going to have it, but I would assume it would probably roll into the 2026 round that they're looking at. I don't think they'd put out a new NOFA or a new call for projects or a new process, would be my guess.
I think every 100 million helps.
What's that?
I said every 100 million helps.
There you go. Yep.
Have there been any updates on the small bridge investment program? Last time when we were in DC, there was some, they were pushing out the small bridge, or they were getting out the NOFOs for the small bridge investment program, and there was discussion that was going to come from the same pot of money, and there was some concern about kind of that complicating sort of the award. Is that sort of, have we heard anything else kind of about what's happening with the small bridges and how likely that is to, how much of the 3.2 billion might get carved out for that?
That I have not heard anything on that since our conversation at the time. That's something we can track.
The applications closed like end of June or early July. So they'd be a preliminary review now.
But I think his question is, how much are they setting aside for the small?
Right. Sure. I don't think they'll say that.
Yeah, but it's helpful to hear, to know that they're at least, they've gotten it on track, or at least it's, the applications have all been submitted.
Dan, are you there? Is that your iPhone?
It is, yes.
Okay. Why don't we take you and then we'll do Brad following
Great.
your report. Thank you, Jim.
Sounds good. So Oregon is not much different than we chatted last time. The next legislative session will be start the end of January. It will be a 6-month long session. The governor's work group around the next transportation package, as it were, continues to meet. Mike had the opportunity to present to the one of the groups around really the success and telling the good story of what's been going on with our bridge, and that group will continue to meet, have recommendations. Again, I expect that there will not be significant momentum on this until after the election, the gubernatorial election in November, as folks begin to frame up the next legislative session. It is the budget that is the dominant issue. Folks are expecting nearly $1 billion, not quite $1 billion, on costs associated with Medicaid and food stamp, both the reduction, but also the new rules are required of it. There's a significant hole in the budget and transportation, which is the genesis for, at least part of the genesis for the ongoing work group report in the last few weeks, talking about the number of layoffs that may occur at ODOT. There's not a funding gap for that budget. So the atmospherics are about a constrained environment. There isn't a huge appetite for revenue increases, and so most of this won't really fall into place in terms of what the session will look like and whether there's a robust transportation effort until after the election. We were able to Maddie and I were able to come sit with Dan and Mike and a few of you as we navigated sort of what the next strategy will look like. Maddie and I, based on the sort of the ability to talk about the high rating on the BIP, will meet with legislators likely in September to make sure that they are staying abreast. Really, at this point, our work in Salem is protecting what we have and keeping the Salem leadership that invested in our project up to speed on our progress in DC, or the quietness in DC, depending on what it is. I know we're also meeting and giving a briefing. Dan is participating with some of the candidates in the open positions for the delegation. So that's a quick summary of where we are. I'm happy to answer any questions.
That's great. Thank you, Dan. Are there any specific questions for Dan? You always have one zinger.
Cover them all.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Brad, do you want to give us a Washington update?
Sure. I'll talk briefly about kind of what similar to what Dan talked about, kind of the financial stresses that are going on in Washington State, and then I'll actually talk a little bit because it's relevant to our area about the recent primary elections, which were last Tuesday. So beginning, Washington is also facing very, very significant budgetary challenges, and there's all kinds of theories as to how those came about. But no matter what, Washington's going to be facing several $billion in the hole on the general fund side. From what I've heard, our transportation revenues are okay, although gas tax, because of the price impacts and how high the price of gas is, the specific gas tax revenues are not as great as they would like them. So there may be some ongoing pressure there. I think the biggest question that we monitor from the general fund is the fact that I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Climate Commitment Act funding, which, as folks know, that basically ends up translating into a price on hydrocarbons, fuel, basically at the pump. And if all of a sudden the general gas tax revenues start dipping, there's going to be more and more pressure to both hold on to the CCA dollars that are supposed to go to transportation, but there's going to be growing pressure from the general fund to try and pull those over. So again, all of that primarily leads to just can't stress enough. We need to continue to show forward progress. We need to make sure that the resources that we have been appropriated continue to stay. As of right now, I think that we're at least I haven't heard of any calendar changes as far as distribution, but if those come up, we'll have to navigate those. But at the same time, it's really important that we continue to show the forward momentum that we have, at least as far as progress on the project. I would like to flag if we can do a day up in Olympia sometime, probably in around the back half of March or early April, just to do a general bridge update to the key legislators. I just want to kind of flag that for folks that I'd like to put that together, and whoever's interested can come up. I also want to kind of touch base where the bridge is in an interesting position as far as the two legislative districts that we come closest to, the 17th and the 14th. Both of those are going to have all four of the House members from those districts are up this cycle, and it is a very, very going to be a hotly contested race. There is there's a very real chance that we could have four new House members in those districts. I'd be surprised if that played out, but all four of those legislative districts are within 2 to 4 points, if not more, of each other, and are going to generate a lot of interest. So all you folks there who are on the Washington side, expect an enormous amount of mail and commercials and everything else that are going to be bombarding your feeds, but we're going to be monitoring those districts very closely as we go forward. And there may be some educational opportunities that come along with that. Either way, we'll let you know how all that plays out. So I'll stop there. I'm happy to answer any questions if folks have any.
You just repeat the districts that you referred to, just geographically, I don't know them by number, but could you just describe the?
Yeah, so the 17th, and remember that all of these legislative districts shifted around 2 years ago with some gerrymandering and court ordered changes that had to occur. We used to be in the 14th legislative district, which all of you know Senator King, and he still largely considers this area his and has been a huge advocate. But the 14th legislative district goes kind of from the Columbia up into Yakima and sort of winds its way around there. The 17th, which is where we are located, the very eastern edge of that legislative district, but we are in it. And then it goes west out to Vancouver, kind of the suburbs of Vancouver, and then up kind of just before the Clark County line.
Great, thanks. So Dan shared a picture there, so. Yeah,
And for
thank
those,
you.
it's Representative Stubbe and Representative Waters and Representative Monjaras and Representative Mendoza, the 17th and 14th, respectively.
Thank you, Brad.
Any other questions for Brad? Dan, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Thank you, Brad.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
So, partner updates. I don't know if we have anybody on today, so. Okay, so we'll keep moving on.
Sorry, guys, I was delayed. So the port has some pretty significant bridge impacts. The first one taking place the night of August 17th through the morning of August 20th to lower the equipment on the northbound side for your project. And then we also have bridge repair projects starting with HDR in our engineering team. Starting September 14th, that will go through the end of October.
Thank you, Amanda. Rose. All right. Consent agenda, I think, is where we are. So this, we have our invoice approvals. Has everybody had a chance to look through those? Mild nods. So our goal here would be to go ahead and entertain a motion to get these taken care of and keep us solvent for another month. Anybody want to?
I move to approve the invoices.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have a quick question because I did review. Why are we approving an April 2026 utility bill? And did something happen that we missed it, or is that do we normally approve bills from April and August? Because we're approving the July rent and the August rent, but I'm just wondering.
Utility bills, they usually do it. Yeah, from behind. So
Lag.
yeah, because we prepay it and then they charge us.
And maybe I can help a little bit to clarify that. Those come from the landlord. And so those are not coming to the bridge authority directly from the utilities. The Bell Ventures, which is your landlord, actually pays the bill and then passes through the difference on to the bridge authority. So it's not that we're paying we don't get the bill and then sit on it. We actually get the bill from Bell Ventures and then pay it as soon as we get it from them.
Thank you.
I've seen that before too. So any other comments or questions? Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Well, that motion carries. Thank you. So that gets us to committee reports. Dan looks like he's eager to go ahead and lead us off.
Always.
Thank you.
So there's not a lot, I don't have a lot to report today. We've been obviously working on kind of assessing the BIP situation and kind of how to respond, going through the letters and kind of talking about, kind of what the next stages are. We've also been working on our reporting, both the financial reports and the performance reports from kind of in the financial aspect of those, and making recommendations for kind of the next round of improvements to those. So there should be those. Are we going to see those in the next version, or do we still have more?
Or which part?
I guess actually, no, you guys reviewed, sorry, you reviewed them while I was at the last meeting that I was out for. Right at the monthly report, monthly financial report.
Second meeting of the month.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so some of that flowed into that meeting. And then we're also going through policies and procedures. And there'll be some discussion at a future meeting about some proposed changes and tightening up some things and just general improvements that came from the Baker Tilly audit and then from internal review as well.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Ben? Okay. Mike Fox, do you want to take us?
Yeah, I'll start.
A busy weekend.
Yeah, so we actually met this morning. We had a very good presentation from Kiewit on the Abernathy Bridge and their drill shaft program there. Showed they talk, I guess it was a superintendent that was involved in that. By the name of Caesar Palomino.
Close enough.
Anyway, had a really good presentation, lots of pictures, good discussion, good understanding of the equipment that they use for their particular shaft. That was excellent. We did talk about the wetland mitigation issue that we talked briefly about earlier. Sorry, Chris, you did. Yeah.
On the drill shaft. So drill shaft is the kind of shaft that we're going to be doing too. So what did you learn that applies?
We basically saw that the equipment that they had there was similar to what we're going to have here. They did use temporary casings like we want to do here. And the benefit of a temporary casing is that after they're in place, we can go ahead and do drilled shafts any time of the year outside of the in-water work window. So we certainly want to do that here. And as we get into the construction schedule more and more, we need to figure out how do we maximize getting those shafts in place as early as we can in winter work windows that allows us flexibility.
If you have a temporary casing, then the fact that it's not during the in-water work window doesn't matter. You can still be putting concrete and steel down in that hole.
Yeah, so this huge casing gets shifted down into the soil to the top of bedrock.
Right.
And once it's in place, you can come back with your drilled shaft equipment and actually drill out the center of it, and then basically put your rebar cage in it and pour your concrete in it outside of the in-water work.
So even the drilling can happen outside.
But by doing that, it captures all the sediment that would contaminate the
No, I can see that. But what about vibration and stuff like that?
Not a problem because you got this casing there, so it kind of isolates it.
So it's like a caisson used to be, right?
Yeah, it's a great big 9-foot piece of pipe, which is pretty thick.
Okay.
It's basically, and then we looked at all of the supporting equipment that we're going to need, which is as you drill down through here, you got to excavate out all the soil and stuff and mud. You got to do something with it. You can't just dump it in the river.
You got plenty of room in your house.
I could probably give you a contract for that, but it's going to be really expensive.
What about for mitigation project?
So all of the supporting equipment we talked about as well. So it's good.
Thank you.
We then moved into this wetland mitigation on the Washington side, and they showed us pictures of, I guess there's 6 different streams. They call them streams. 6 different streams in some areas, and then the coastal piece. Got a pretty good understanding of what it is, and now what we're going to have to mitigate. That was good. Got a permitting update from Christie. And then we talked about the BNSF, which is a railroad, the agreements that we're going to have to put in place. First off, for right away, putting a bridge over the top of their rail, taking the old bridge out, and also putting a construction access road across the bridge. And It's about a 6-month process, so we've already started that work now.
Do we know for sure we're taking out the bridge, in the portion that crosses the railroad? I thought there was some discussion that the folks from Washington might want to keep that for.
I don't think that decision has formally been made, but as we go through this, if we are going to take it out, we got to get a right of way or an agreement with the railroad. Now, the benefit of taking it out could be we have to pay the railroad get this access for the new bridge. But we ask the question, well, if we're doing that and we're giving you back, we're taking the access for the other one out, do we get a credit? And nobody could answer the question, but it's a good question to ask. So if we leave it in place for some reason, somebody else takes ownership of it, we got to talk about that. I don't think we're talking big money. The end of the report.
I think what was really interesting about the Abernathy, I thought, was the foundation process. Those foundations are the same as we're going to do. The conditions where they did it are very different than ours. So being able to see how big a cage they have to get in there, knowing that they can't pour concrete off of the bridge that's over the top of it. We have to somehow barge concrete out. I think that the superintendent did a very good job of saying this is what we did. And it was pretty easy for us to understand, oh, that's a challenge on ours, and that's a challenge on ours. And I think it made some more sense. James has been talking about things they want to do. And I think there was a lot of clarity there on some of the things that James is saying, no, we got to do this because we need this.
Two real issues there. One is they build the rebar cages on the shore and then bring them over into place and put them in the hole. But you still have to put another set on top of it. So the connection on this is kind of unique, and it's going to be very time consuming. When you're looking at number 18 rebar and the massive amount of weight you're talking about. To get that down in the shaft, then you got to fill it with concrete. Now, at Abernathy, everything is right underneath basically an existing bridge. So they just shut down a lane, pump concrete off the side of the bridge right into the hole. We're going to have barges with concrete trucks marshaled out there. Sounds easy, but when you consider each of those shafts could be hundreds of yards. You got a lot of concrete trucks.
Yeah, we're talking about 14, 15-hour continuous pours.
So, shuttling trucks on barges.
Yeah, on barges. And right now we're thinking one batch plant, which may get reconsidered.
So it was a really good kind of, this is the baseline, this is what we did, and this is why it worked. These were the challenges, and knowing that we have some of those. So I think it's a really good kind of discussion to open. So I was going to add one thing to it, and I've lost the thread. So
it was probably better, in 1924, they used the wooden gangplank and wheelbarrows. So it sounds like you got a little bit better plan here.
We'll see.
Okay.
That's a lot of wheelbarrows.
There were.
Could be rebars though. Just dump the wheelbarrow
on. So let's go on to Arthur.
Okay. So another time, most important thing, Tehi was talking with us about the GAP report and his efforts to get the drafts in place for us to approve of all the policy changes that are necessary. So we're fully in compliance with whoever the drafts has been fully in compliance with. But after the meeting, we wound up with, after the meeting, he sent a follow-on saying that some things had changed and that he was working on a new plan, and we haven't seen the result of that. So I don't see is the application now?
No, he's on there.
Okay, so I'm sure we'll hear from him later, but I don't think there's anything that was time critical from the point of view of bridge construction.
Right. Communications. Catherine or Jacob?
Yeah, this is Jake. So the big achievement this last couple of weeks is sent out the Q2 summer newsletter that's now on social media and the website. A lot of great information there, sort of recapping what the Bridge Authority has been up to in the last couple months. Currently, the team is working on updated posters and visual aids that will be utilized by the authority going forward. So we're looking at 4 to 5 posters that encapsulate the importance of the project and the impacts to the community. So we look forward to presenting those to the full authority here in a few weeks once our review is done. And that is about it for an update.
Thank you, Jake. We don't have any unfinished business or any action item. I think we already talked about the BIP. You want to run us through upcoming action items? We haven't really reviewed those.
Next meeting, you've got a presentation from PFM and CDM Smith. That'll be on your options for TIFIA bonding, going through just kind of the background on those.
Does that cover the non-governmental options too, or is that strictly the?
It'll be non-governmental type bonds as well as TIFIA.
We're going to explain in regular English what.
I won't promise regular English, but we'll try to get them to do as best they can.
We'll attempt to translate, yes.
Bridge monitoring, we talked about. Once we get that all fully established, then we can work on who and how we share the data. We're still working on that. Some more to come on that. And then the rest of them are just policies that'll get implemented kind of as the project gets to the point of needing them. So. Anything else?
Does that all go into something that Mark should be probably weighing in on?
He will weigh in on all the policy stuff as we go. Yeah.
Great. Catherine.
Did we decide on the commissioners who would be doing the debrief as Mr. Shannon requested?
We have not.
That's a good reminder.
What can ask next? How we do that?
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that. It sounds like some discussions and some thoughts have already happened.
Not me.
Not me.
You haven't talked about it, or you don't want to be in the debrief?
I don't want to be in the debrief. Much better job at that than me.
That was an expression that they don't want to do it.
I do think there's logic to maybe the people who are last in Washington, or at least some part of that contingent.
Well, I know Catherine has been back several times. Mike Fox, you've been back several times. Obviously, Mike Shannon has. And Ben, you went with Catherine last time. I went once year before, 8 months before. So.
Jake Anderson.
Jake was there, right, with me. There's something though that I think we got to talk about before, and that is, as you know, the notice we got basically derated us from highly recommended to recommended.
It's not derating.
Yeah.
It's a separate group of people.
It's a lower rating.
But
it's a
we don't know what their curve was.
It's
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the issue, I think, in the debrief is first off, understanding how we put together the earlier version of the application including where our changed was on the economic model. If we could try and get from them why they changed it and what they changed, then when we come back, some of us know how that original model went together. I think those people need to be involved in at least understanding what happened and can we
It's different.
put another story together to push back on it.
Narrative.
And then the folks that actually sit down going forward, that could be totally different. But I think you need continuity, not so much on who went to DC, but if they went to DC and they were involved in development of the actual calculations, set through those meetings and understood and challenged it, I think that's the best way.
We'll also have staff present too.
Yeah.
Instead of a couple of.
We're planning to have our team that put the BCA together. I do not know how much they will allow you to ask questions. I would suggest you send us questions that you think are relevant, and we'll put a list together. If we get the chance to ask, we may not get the chance to ask. But also remind you that they did change between 25 and 26. They did change the model. So it was a different model than we had used on any previous applications. And as maybe Grant said, as far as we know, the teams that review it are totally different, and it is a totally new. They don't look at it and compare to your previous stuff. It is a brand new look at your new application, and it is based on that application. So what you got previously really has no bearing on what you got this time. And anything recommended or highly recommended is the same level. They move forward. There have been projects that have been recommended and highly recommended that have won grants. IBR is a good example. They won. They were only recommended, not highly recommended. So do not read too much into the recommended versus highly recommended and whether or not that plays a part. I think we just put our best foot forward, put our best material forward, and that's about as much as you can really do.
But it does seem like there's something to what Mike's saying, because, you know, we came into this thinking that we'd rated, you know, better in our economic analysis under the Trump model than under the Biden model.
And we did. But like I said, it is a completely different group of reviewers. You have no idea what they were comparing or how they were evaluating.
The reason why I bring it up, if you go back to the second version of what we did, when we got the new criteria and the formula and so on, we went in and interrogated how we did it the first time. And then we understood how this project is going together and the benefits for the local community. If we, the commission, weren't part of that, I don't think he would have changed the model, because in all fairness and held a lot of respect, our contractors don't know the detail in the community. Now, you've gained a lot since you've been here, but I think the commissioners added a little bit of flavor, because we caught a couple of things, if you remember, that was getting overlooked, and we said, well, wait a minute, let's back up, let's talk about this. And by talking about it, we actually changed it and raised our score. That's all I'm saying. So I think whoever sits in on this thing, it brings value if they're bringing that perspective into that discussion.
Can I add to your?
Greg's got his hand up too for that.
Yeah, I was just gonna, ask the question at this point. I think, Mike, you did a good job answering a lot of it. Recommended or highly recommended, it doesn't change much of the fact. Do we really want to go in there and try to change or argue, or are we better off spending our time on the political side trying to rally more political support behind it at this point?
Well, let me offer, I don't think we should go in trying to argue anything with these guys. That's not what I mean at all. I think we need to try and understand why they did what they did. And we're not trying to make an argument in that meeting whatsoever. That's for the next 2 weeks to modify our approach if we want to modify it. But if you don't understand how they did it, and I agree, why spend a dime and modify anything?
Right. Yeah, and we are working with Summit and some of our other DC folks to find out the best approach, Jake, on lobbying support for the BIP. So I don't know if Cole's on, but we can follow up with you on some of the conversations we've had there on what the best approach is or best recommendations that we've gotten on what to do on that side.
Do we know how many applications received recommended or highly recommended? Like what are we competing against?
They have not released any of that information that I'm aware of. We just directly heard on ours.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that we have a very specific thing to investigate. And that is in the case of the economic analysis, we know that the cost benefit analysis is a big piece of it. But unless I have misunderstood, like other discussions, we don't know what else comes into play. And in that context, we had a discussion in Finance Committee about the importance of the letters of support that we're getting, particularly from industry. And so in the meantime, we have seen what letters of support are in, because we don't know how many of the letters we have sent in are in the package. Okay, so that is a thing that we are sorting out even right now. And I'm just bringing this up because it's a very specific thing. That endorsement from industry, particularly aerospace industry and important industry, we don't know how much it weighs. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm repeating what I think I heard. But this is one of the things that we're considering. And so I think that whoever sits on in that debrief, in my mind, that is one thing that's come up, because that's a very specific action item that we can take. We can decide. I think there's still a potential letter we don't have, and then making sure that we have our best set of industry endorsements. There could well be other issues that come up, but I'm just adding some specific flavor, I think, to what you're saying.
I think you're right in the area that in past applications, we really did not stress defense. And I think it was smart that we added that to it. How much is in there? I don't know.
There's not very much. I mean, there's an industry letter from the Gorge Technology Alliance, but I mean, since then we have nearly half dozen companies whose executive leadership teams have expressed interest in supporting this project and the advocacy for this project. And I think that we've also heard from numerous insiders that this administration is one that likes to hear from industry, and that it's important that they hear from industry. And so I do think that that's an area where we potentially could bring some more to the table. And I think one of the questions around it is, how much of it is just, hearing that, these companies support this project, and how much of it is the story around, what's actually happening here, and why it's, why this is a particularly important place for the federal government to invest $500 million of taxpayer money to support what geographically looks like a local bridge. And I think that's an argument, or that's a case that we have historically supported mostly through the benefit cost analysis, which does stand on its own. But narratively, I don't think it's as compelling as when you look at the industries that are here, when you look at the jobs growth that's here, when you look at the manufacturing growth that's happened here, and the number of jobs that are coming to the area, specifically supporting the defense industry and some of the advanced and innovative, aerospace companies that have either grown out of the gorge or have recently been acquired by national and international firms that are buying these companies and then investing back into the gorge to grow them, right? So being able to tell that story, I do think, strengthens the economic case for, why you do this bridge over, another bridge that, has a similar BCA somewhere else in the country.
I think you're right. And that's the purpose of the reason for that 2 week. You can adjust your application.
But if you want letters, you're probably going to have to start asking for them now. I mean, it would be quite a scramble. Wait. Anyway, that's in process. I think that's it.
So we've got Keith and Arthur here that both want to.
You want to go first, Keith?
Yeah, you bet. I think tangent to the economic discussion is defense industrial base. So there's, I mean, probably just a paragraph in there if there's room to just stress, industrial base is an issue right now with this ongoing conflict with Iran. So I think it's a hot button that we could kind of push if we wanted to.
That's a great point. We're talking about the debrief now, and rather than what material we're going to be adding to our application. And so my question is about questions. I think Mike said that we're not sure that there's even that the format is one that is conducive to our questioning. In my experience in things like this, if you submit your questions in advance, it feels less like you're attempting to interrogate them and more like you're attempting to understand. And it also lets them prepare and figure out how they want to approach things. So I'm suggesting that we consider preparing our queries for them and sending them in through our whatever channels we have before the actual meeting.
Do they allow that, Mike?
I don't believe you can do. Jim can weigh in here, but I don't believe they take anything prior to the debrief. It's a very scripted. We did it 2 years ago, I think. Now it's very prescriptive. But Jim, I'm pretty sure they don't allow any free questions.
No, you're right. I mean, it's very scripted. It's, they basically read a script and tell you what you can expect to get answered and not. And that's true across all categories of grants.
Hey, Jim, is there a room when they read that script? Does that script include the statement on whether they'll take questions from us?
Well, they'll take questions from us, but not they don't obviously reference in advance because you're there in person or remotely, but they will take questions during the debrief, but the answers are not always completely direct. And they're usually very grounded in maybe the NOFO or in something that was directly in the response. They don't speculate. They don't compare you necessarily to other projects. It's all very rote.
Yeah, they're trying to make this as sanitary as they can. They don't want a lawsuit. They don't want somebody protesting.
Well, so I think it still makes sense for us to prepare whatever questions we want to ask beforehand.
Yeah, so I think you should do that.
Whoever's representing us has a chance to review that.
Yeah, for sure. I think we should do that and just have them ready and prioritized. And if we get a chance to ask one, what's the one question you want to ask?
And we don't know when this is going to be.
I don't know yet. We made the request Friday of last week. Last time we made the request, they got back to us within a couple days. And then it was assigned or set up for the meeting within like 2 weeks. So the thought is we'll have something before the end of August.
Well, under the scenario, I mean, it feels to me like we need to have a point of view on this and we need to develop it. I mean, if we have a view that there is a narrative around the industrial base, particularly in the strategic industry, and that we want to see letters of support for that from the industry, and we want a narrative, then I think we need to move on it and do it. It's because we may well not get anything very specific out of the debrief. Right. If we get to the debrief and we do get specifics, well, great, then we can pivot or move ahead.
I agree. I don't think you can wait. If we think we need some additional letters of support, like from the defense. I wouldn't wait for the debrief. I'd be going after it right now.
Yeah, so we've already started that process of getting additional letters. We've got a list of the letters that we have to date. So if you want to take a look at that, we can email that out to the full group so that you know who we got letters from. Some of the industry is linked under some kind of, wheat growers or, the Marine Association or somebody. So you may not see some individual companies, but they'll do it through an agency because, again, some of these companies have lots of people that would love for them to send letters. So they will typically do it through like an organization and not send hundreds of letters out from their company. So we can kind of, give you guys some feedback on whether or not they're included in a group letter or not.
Sounds like the debrief and the resubmittal aren't as closely tied as you would think they would be.
I mean, they are to some degree, right? The debrief is intended to provide you some feedback so that you can improve your application.
It sounds like 90% know what we want to submit in the resubmittal.
Yes.
Or whatever we want to strengthen, and we may get some visibility from the debrief that either reinforces that or makes some modification. But
I think that's
90% there with or without the debrief.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I mean, I would not anticipate a whole rewrite and would not recommend the complete rewrite. I would say if there's gaps or, finite points or something has changed, like the record of decision or, getting the 100% design, those kind of things we should add in. But this isn't an exercise of completely rewriting our BIP application, right? So, because they can downgrade you.
Yeah.
So if you go in and change too much, they can.
Did we submit that right after or right before we found out about Oregon and Washington?
It was after, I think. It was in October was the last time we sent one. I believe it was after.
It was after because we ended up using that money instead of the infra.
Yeah.
And we took a year.
But that was a follow-on to our main application that was due in August.
It was an update at that point.
So we don't know, that's kind of the piece that we don't know whether that was incorporated to the review or not, or.
I would say the October update was because that was an official update.
Okay.
What I would say is not is anything that we've done after that.
So that would be the letters from the defense industry.
Yeah, we got a wheat growers letter and some other letters that we've received. A record of decision came in after we let them know. But again, I don't know if they don't give you feet. We've sent it. They don't tell you, oh, great. Yeah, we put this in your packet. You just don't hear anything. So you assume.
We can insert a summary of here are the major things that happened since we submitted.
Yes, and we will include those then as backup. So, that's the Coast Guard letter. We'll include that as an attachment. So what I understand it to be is they have a packet of information that comes from each applicant, and that is what they look at. So we want to make sure we get everything we can into that packet, and we don't count on any previous updates or any future updates. We want that packet to be as complete as possible.
So we're going to resubmit all of the letters.
We're going to resubmit all the letters. We'll put in our record of decision letter, anything that we've gotten after October of last year. All of that will get put into this new submittal package and resubmitted. I did send you all individually a link to the application from last year. So if you want to go through there and send us comments, send them through Reddy and Andrew Gong so that we can keep them all consolidated.
So but through our contacts for
that. Andrew Gong?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, he has all your stuff. I sent you a link to the document, so you should be able to get to all the documents. So just please go in there, send him your comments. And then we will incorporate them all. Please start now because, like I said, we only have 14 days after the debrief. So we've already started looking at the BCA and talking about it. We've got a couple meetings this week to talk about how we can put back or be more aggressive with the BCA and maybe bump that number up as much as possible. I would say that and this gets back to where we started this with Catherine and the people that are going to be involved in the debrief. I would like to have a set of commissioners that can make some decisions quickly related to, hey, do you want to include this? Do you not want to include this? How aggressive do you want to be with this? so that we can immediately get responses back to the team so that they can incorporate direction into how we want to pursue this. It would be nice to have a small team that we can directly work with to run things by and get, approval from the board on as well.
So and that team either does or doesn't participate in the debrief.
Correct. It may be different teams, it may be the same team and whatever you would like to do, but it would be nice to have a small committee that could give us direction because it will be a very fast paced, quick thing to do here. So
maybe it's the same three people.
Say, wouldn't the committee be able to give you the ideas, the thumbs up? Like the committee can't make a decision itself, but it's staff decision of what to include and what not to include. And I think as long as you run it by them, whoever's on that review committee, I have no problem with you moving forward.
Okay. Yeah,
I agree with Jake.
Okay.
So we're looking for some volunteers for that committee, I think. That's what we're looking.
And whether or not they're going to do both.
See if we get 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely want to volunteer to be on the committee that does the review. Like if there's an opportunity to ask a question that is kind of a leading question into, how we tell the story around, the industry growth and the defense industrial base here. I'd like to try and continue that from the discussion that we had when we were in DC meeting with DOT. I'm happy to be a part of the other kind of the prep and the other, if there's somebody else that, feels like they're closer to that wants to be a piece of that, I'd be happy to kind of loop back into that as well.
Catherine?
Volunteer for both.
Do both as well. If no,
Mike, I don't see
no. He should be on it, I believe. I didn't hear it.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Well, how many more do you need?
I have 4. I mean, you guys need to make the decision once you see how many want to be involved.
I missed. Who's the 4?
I've got Ben, Catherine, Grant, and Eric.
Okay. Mike Fox, what about you?
No, I'm good.
That's how did you say it? No, I'm good.
Mark and Keith and Jake. Jake.
I mean, I don't bring any of the background. I don't bring as much background to this as I don't know that you need bodies. Yes, I will. I would happily do it. I'm just.
So this is a fast action group and we have a full group to rely on.
Right.
And I think what we're saying is that Grant, myself, Ben, and Catherine are going to be the point people. And if we need more resources, we're going to tap the rest of you.
I don't think you can have 4.
You can't have 4.
Okay.
I need 3 of them. And I need,
do the 3 of you want to do the kind of the prep work and then we can make a decision kind of once you've finished the prep work, if it makes sense for, who we have in the brief. I mean, I want to work this stuff. I've carried forward a lot of the conversations with industry. And so I think that's an important piece.
I think it makes sense for you to be on the team.
Yeah,
because I hold up the whole defense industry.
Yeah, you're the one that makes contact with Boeing, with Airbus.
Yeah, and I'll bring that kind of regardless. I mean, there's like a, the BCA piece of it, which, I have comments and feedback on, but I'm happy to also send those in. It's really, I guess I'd leave it up to the kind of the group on, who do we think makes the most sense to have?
I think having you involved in the update of the package is critical because I think you're the best person to capture, one specific thing, which we know we want to get in there. I don't think it's as important for you to be involved in the debrief. But again, I've never been in that particular debrief, so I don't know what the content's going to look like.
I think your comment that we know 90% and we're only going to get 10% from the debrief is probably it. a true statement. So the value is in that reviewing and thought process to develop and sharpen the whatever we do to the application. I think that's where the value is. So Grant, Ben, and Catherine, is that what we're? I mean, I'm happy to look at it, but I may ask a question or two. Got a lot of knowledge about what we're trying to accomplish in the construction. The sales pitch is not my sales pitch, and storytelling is not my strong suit. So,
and all of you, like I said, can provide us comments through reviewing it, and sending it to us. Just don't send it to each other.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Okay, so I've got Ben, Catherine, and Grant. We will make sure that you three are on the debrief and prep meetings coming into the debrief. I think the co-chairs can just appoint them.
We've done lots of other committees without it, but yeah. We didn't vote on the last one.
Appointed.
Okay.
So we are clearly off the agenda, but
That's
important.
that's good.
And the other item was another DC visit later.
Yeah, one other question was brought up was a DC visit. I don't know right now what the latest is on that.
Okay.
That's not until what, March?
We had talked about doing one in September. I don't know that it makes sense anymore, given where we are. I think the debrief could act as that, unless Jim or somebody has a really strong reason why we should.
Yeah,
this trip.
It seems like
it's saying if we're right and they're gonna announce December, January, they're gonna make the final decision in early December. I don't know. So maybe
I don't know. I've been wrong all year.
Visit may make sense.
I think we'll let Jim tell us.
Yeah,
Jake.
I think the more important question here is if the decision is going to now be made in December or January, based on the timeline to actually get from a decision to a contract in hand for everything that we've seen from the federal government, what does that put our actual construction date to? Is there any chance of getting in the water in 2027 with that being the case? This new information.
We're reevaluating that right now, Jake, and we'll bring that back to you once we get a better idea of what our alternative is there. It is definitely impacting the work that we would be able to do, though.
But just one word, it doesn't mean we're not going into construction.
Correct.
Yeah. It just has an impact on what our current plan is.
Yeah.
Right.
And we don't know what that is exactly yet.
Is it possible that there is a reason for a Washington trip? Let's say that the BIP decision stretches out all the way to the end of the year, maybe beyond. And is there a point for showing up? And
I think it's.
Why don't we ask Jim to weigh in? Yes, he's on the. Not sure. Jim, can you weigh in on this?
I'm trying to.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, we're obviously in this weird period because we're not going to know, and they're not going to be able to say a whole lot. I mean, September is going to be crazy because they're going to be very short period of time that the House and Senate are going to be in. So I don't think, and we haven't had the debrief, or, we're going to be in the process of having the debrief. So and resubmitting. So I don't think it makes sense to do September, but, I think a fall trip would probably make sense. We'd have to try to nail down the time a little bit and the timeline and what they've done in past rounds after they've done the resubmittal, what that time window looks like. I don't think they'd be able to say a whole lot. but if we have updates to provide them, new letters that have come in since the last time we were here, which we know we've gotten a couple at least, it'd be good to highlight them, and some other things that have occurred since the last trip we took. So I think there's value in it. We just have to nail down what that right window would look like. And I also think we'd have to be cognizant that they may not be willing to say a whole lot.
To me, the reason to do it, and it would be November, early December, is to be able to say, we now are essentially complete with our design. We're well on our way to all of our permits, being able to go ahead and proceed with construction. We're ready. Not just saying it, we are ready. And the only thing that's holding us up and making progress now is this grant.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna be able to say that until March. Truly say it.
What would be the missing piece?
You're not gonna have all your design completely done. I mean, to be saying it at the end of the year is maybe a little premature.
Okay, maybe there's a more nuanced version.
All of the final design is done. We're in final reviews and final checks, which we've had none identified thus far.
Yeah. And I would say too, unless there's a new authorization package that comes out that has new funding sources or something, I don't know that there's a lot to, I don't know that you're influencing a lot at this point to go back out.
The only reason why I would give it one last time, one last shot, is that they've got a bunch of other applications on the line and they're looking at all of them. And which ones can you truly go ahead and execute and actually start construction? I mean, there will be others that say it, but if you put the checklist in front of them, and we've got check, except these two, and here's when they will be done, brings a lot more credibility to you and them making that final decision between these and this one.
If that's the case, but there could be another, we don't know the other projects. There could be two other projects that have been waiting for funding for 4 years.
And that's fine. I'm just worried about them comparing us to somebody that's nowhere near ready.
Yeah, I think we got to make that statement in our application as well, because again, I don't know how much of these meeting information actually makes it back to the selection committee, but so if it drags on that long, it probably is worth the money to go do it.
So Jim, you're thinking a meeting, the advantage would be with DOT specifically and not necessarily our legislative representatives.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody has been fully on board and we've been meeting on a regular basis with the delegation. Everybody's been supportive up and down. It's really, DOT. I mean, if people were to come back, we would certainly do those meetings and, continue to keep them in the loop. But depending on timing, they may not be in town. They may be back in Oregon or Washington. So, well, I think the first step is getting through the debrief and figuring out where we are. And I think, we should get with, Dan and Mike and, just figure out what we think makes the most sense in terms of timing, in terms of, makes sense at all, and just figure out the best approach forward.
Debrief, whatever information's on that, we'll circle around before we entertain a further decision on that.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, the one thing I would leave you with though is be thinking about who would go in case it needs to be a very quick decision. And maybe we even make that decision ahead of time just in case it's a short notice.
Until the debrief happens and what are the, then in theory, when we put all that stuff back, we're going to go back through it and there's going to be hopefully there's 3 or 4 differentiators in the packet. And who is the individual that is understands those and is passionate in their way to talk about them.
Mhm.
That's who goes. So let's hope we have those 4 or 5 differentiators that just say, hey, that's the big, I think they're in there. Jacob, did you kind of get comfortable with that conversation? I think you had the political angle that we didn't really explore very much in conversation. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that some more.
No, I just think as long as we have a reason and rationale to go back, we should go, but we got to be very clear what we're doing and when we're doing it. I think we have a lot of time to between now and then from when we're going to go, if it's going to be in November, December.
Okay. Thank you. Is that enough taking the dice container for today?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just last point on the visit out there, I think earlier is better, both from the decision standpoint and also to get, in before the holidays. Like once Thanksgiving hits, it's hard to imagine that there's a whole lot that we're going to catch, between, mid-November and the end of the year.
Jim and Summit, they can kind of keep us pretty good at making sure that they're at a useful time. So, okay. Thank you for everybody that stepped up. And we've got our homework and reviewing the existing application that's in. And I think we have come to the conclusion of the agenda. So go ahead. Next meeting is Monday, August 24th. I think we have a presentation that day. Beautiful to some folks. Thank you, everyone.